Monroe St. Brown first overall. How are you feeling about that?
I mean, I think it's always, when you're talking about the first round, I think it's always a go out and get your guy.
Come on.
Let's go. Oh, man, my heart was beating on that one.
I can just tell you, when we get down to the actual numbers and projections, that team is going to score a lot. There's a lot of fantasy goodness.
There's 50 feet of shit, and then Kyler and Edwards.
So forget that. I don't want to draft guys on bad teams.
Doesn't matter. They're going to figure out a way to get the ball. Good offensive coordinator. Arthur Smith is not a good offensive coordinator.
You guys are team 3 and 4. There's no point to take Stroud, right? Is there a point to take Stroud in the best ball format? Oh. Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday from all of us here at FFPC. Live draft coverage.
Tuesday. Come on, you already messed it up.
Oh my gosh, it's been one of those days, Terp. I have Wednesday in my head.
Our show's going to start on Wednesday, so you're fine.
We off to a hot start. We're going to do weekly draft coverage on starting every Wednesday in June. So that's why it's in my head. It's Tuesday. We're all flustered. We're traveling. Terp's probably overtired. That doesn't matter. Mike Schopp is joining us. He of Deep End Fantasy Football, ship chasing fame. Mike, how you doing today? Thanks for hopping on the show. And Mike's muted.
We are just totally off the rails.
What a start. What a
totally
start.
Off the rails.
There
we go. There we go.
His first time ever on a show.
It's my third time today, and it's still a challenge. I'm doing well. I often get confused what day of the week it is, so no.
Making me feel better. We are here. We're covering our first FFPC Big Gorilla draft of the year. For those who maybe don't know, the Fantasy Pros Championship was what it was formerly known as. It has been rebranded into the FFPC Big Gorilla. Before we start dissecting the draft, though, just real quick, it's not just a simple naming rebrand. There's some new twists to the format. For those who don't know, there's the 7 bananas promotion. That means if you get multiple 7th picks in a row across multiple Big Gorilla drafts, there are prizes. So if you get 2 in a row, that's a free entry to the best ball tournament, and so on, up to all the way. I believe if you get 5 in a row, it's a free jungle safari or $50,000. We've had multiple people win 2 in a row. I think we've had 1 or 2 winners at 3 in a row, which gives you a free entry to the main event. And then on top of that, instead of our traditional early bird promo, it's now the early rampage promo. So for the first 200 filled leagues, you're entered into an exclusive tournament alongside the Big Gorilla, which you're drafting for. So only those first 200 leagues. It's the early rampage tournament. That's a $25,000 prize pool, $10K to first. So this is another exclusive tournament for you to join. Draft is well underway. Terp, the last time we were on was right before the draft. I always asked you in one of our first kind of drafts of the year, post the NFL draft. Right now, it's May 20th. Do you have kind of a flag plant right now for who you would take first overall?
Jamar Chase is pretty much as close to as flag plant as I'm going to have it at number 1. I just think it's clear right now. I mean, his ceiling is just extremely high. It's definitely the highest in fantasy football, in my opinion. And with Burrow, obviously Burrow needs to stay healthy or everything goes to shit. But with Chase, it's to me, it's a clear number 1. I don't mind the guys behind him if I want to mix up exposure, because I am in a lot of these, and I have the number 1 pick multiple times. I will take Chase probably 80% of them, but I can see some other guys getting in. Just looking at different structures to try to be different. Guys like Jefferson, guys like Barkley, Robinson, maybe get crazy with some of the other guys down the road, just to mix up exposures a little bit, because as we know, I do enter a ton of these.
Mike, I got to ask you, I think it was you were reacting. Christian McCaffrey goes off at the 108.
Yeah.
He's been going on average here over the last couple of weeks around the 201, 202 in the Big Gorilla. It goes at the 108, which is the highest he's gone in this format over those last couple of weeks. What are your thoughts on Team 8, Predator number 11, going with Christian McCaffrey?
I mean, I think it's okay. Again, like Dave was saying about his portfolio, if you're playing in many, you want to get different combinations. And McCaffrey, I don't think McCaffrey anymore is someone you can expect to get at 205.
He's not anymore.
Not anymore. So I have been drafting Genty in that spot over McCaffrey. I think McCaffrey, though, I mean, it's certainly a bet you can make.
Terp, what are your thoughts on McCaffrey there at 8th? Are you buying? I mean,
I think that's where he should be going personally.
Okay.
I mean, the 49ers schedule is really easy. That division is okay. I don't think it's in any way good compared to the other divisions in the NFC. So, I mean, his schedule is going to warrant plenty of fantasy goodness. The question just comes back to, is he breaking down? Which last year you saw just a total disaster from everybody in Vegas who drafted him number 1 and number 2 and thought, hey, you know, this is clear cut and easy, and it was not good. It was a complete nightmare, and there was never a time where Christian McCaffrey came back and you had any confidence whatsoever. It was a disaster. But I mean, it's really hard not to love that offense. It's really not to love the system. Kyle Shanahan, we know what he does to running backs. We saw the guys after McCaffrey last year have success in short periods. So at the end of the first round, which I really usually I'm more of a top heavy guy when it comes to where I want to draft, but the end of the draft this year has a lot of potential. I mean, McCaffrey, he's all over the place, but if you're taking him there, you still have options in the second round to where you can get one of those top receivers. And if you're picking even later, I mean, we talk about some of the starts like Brian Thomas, Nico Collins looks nice, Luka Neighbors looks nice. I mean, you have plenty of options because last year we saw everybody wanted to do the 0 RB. Nobody drafted running backs, and all the people that did them were completely almost dust because it didn't work out. Saquon Barkley's killed it. The Derrick Henry's killed it. All those guys. We can go down the list of just guys who pretty much were ignored in drafts that went nuts. So
yeah,
every year it's a different flavor. It's just coming down to just keeping your exposure not too crazy on a certain guy, especially in best ball. In these drafts, if you're in 1 or 2, go get your guys.
Mike, as Henry's pointing out in the chat, I mean, if you look back at last year's board, as he said, there were just landmines all throughout the first 3 rounds. Is there any guy in those first couple of rounds for you this year that you're already queasy at their ADP and are trying to avoid?
Well, definitely Henry and somewhat Achane, although I'm not sure I have the right reasons. I just kind of want to generally bet against last year. I think the process was really good. And I mean, Dave alluded to running backs that just we ignored. I mean, Mixon, Jacobs, Kamara, Connor, that was last year. And outliers are outliers. If they all a year older do the same thing, including Barkley, hats off. But I think the market usually reacts to last year pretty strongly. And the more that happens this year, the happier I'll be. I do think, getting a running back in the first 2 rounds is not bad. But in general, I'd want to be a team like Team 6 here to try to play against, not that it's really manifested yet, but try to play against rooms where teams are sort of leaning into last year. I feel like generally that's not great.
A recipe for success, I agree. Because if you're chasing last year, you're chasing all the numbers that you didn't have, and obviously you got burned by. It could lead to just a complete disaster. I'm not saying, and I know you're not saying it's going to be the case, but I don't think I'll ever be a team that starts running back, unless it's there's certain running backs I like there in the second round, if it just fell, accordingly. But if you're asking me what I would love to start, I don't know, Jahmyr Gibbs or Christian McCaffrey and Bucky Irving or Devon Achane, yeah, I'd love that. But if you're adding Henry in there, I agree with you. I'll take that bet against him. Obviously, we can get burned. We got burned last year for those who faded Derrick Henry like myself, but I'll still take my chances. I mean, he's got to break down here eventually, right?
Plus we have so many fun rookies. But rookies are the biggest trap in fantasy football. Every year we see them. We can go down the list of just guys that'll get drafted tonight that you're never going to even hear their name all year. Just remember that's okay. That's okay. But that's okay. That's okay. It's mid-May and it's redraft, and we can cut 4 of them. By Labor Day anyway. The Ben Sinats of the world. Everybody loved him. He was the hottest ticket in the world last year, and it just never worked out. I feel like Taylor is a little bit under respected. It's a question of whether the Colt quarterback thing isn't a disaster. I feel like Taylor is good. He's still not old. And if it's Jones, or even if it's Richardson and it's like not completely through the floor, then Taylor is somebody. I mean, pick 22. Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Kinda
people
feels
are
as
worried
though
about the
Taylor-
same thing they were worried about last year. Is Richardson going to steal the goal line? Is Richardson going to be the guy? If let's just say Richardson doesn't win the job, I think if anything, that helps Daniel. That helps Jonathan Taylor. I'm not saying it's a win for the Colts, but it'll definitely help his fantasy. You saw him at the end of the season. He won people a ton of money, and he was not on any roster all year that did well. So,
And they'll throw to him a lot.
And they'll throw to him,
if it's
exactly.
Jones, that's. I think the days of Taylor coming off the field on third down may be over.
Yeah.
I do feel like to some degree Taylor has, in just like a short 2 years, has dropped from a consensus 101 to a guy in the second, early third round that people just don't feel like love taking.
Yeah. He's
And-
become boring a little
Yes.
bit, and maybe
Yeah.
there's a little bit of an opportunity there.
Yeah.
Terp, I got to ask you, Team 1 start, the GOAT squad, your thoughts on a little bit of a rainbow start here. Go Bijan at the 101, JSN, and then they jump on their QB early and go Lamar Jackson. What are you thinking about that build so far?
Bijan's my number one running back, so drafting number one, get your guy. I don't know. I'm pretty sure this guy has multiple teams. I recognize his name. So my guess is just an exposure thing. JSN, I'm not a Sam Darnold fan. That offensive line's terrible. JSN's going to be okay, good. Do I think he's going to be targeted a lot? He's going to be playing in the slot. He's going to get plenty of looks. But is he going to pay off a second-round value with some of these guys that are going around him? I don't think so. So I would have went elsewhere there. And to me, we all know, we talked about the quarterbacks are definitely up there in the third round right now with Jackson, Allen, Daniels, guys like that are clear cut, in my opinion, the top three above everybody else. So will Lamar Jackson come back in the fourth round? Probably not. So go get your guy type of situation. I'm fine with it. I wouldn't personally do it. AJ Brown in the third round looks ridiculous to me. I know I'm a homer and I'm an Eagles fan and all that stuff, but that's just, I'll take my chances on that every day and 10 times over. It's just George Kittle would take over Jackson. That's what I'm saying. You get a chance to start with Bowers, Taylor, and AJ Brown. That has to be the latest AJ Brown's gone in this in a really long time, if ever.
Latest AJ Brown has gone is at the 301. So this is the latest he's been over the last.
I swear, every time we do these, there's always that wacky fall of a player. We just look at not that it's only two spots, but AJ Brown in drafts that I've seen has gone as high as where Amon-Ra St. Brown and A-Chain and Derrick Henry are going. So to get him where this drafter got him, he had to be excited.
Mike, I got to ask you, in a tight end premium format like this is, obviously Bowers and McBride have established themselves as first-round guys, the clear tier 1 tight end. But after that, it's kind of all over the place. Kittle is pretty clearly your tight end 3, and then you just have kind of a jumble between Laporta, Hawkinson, Kelsey. And I got to ask, in your book right now, who do you have as that tight end 3? Is it Kittle or is it someone else? And then even if it is Kittle, are you jumping on a third or fourth round tight end, or are you just going to wait for that bunch of tight ends there and just trust your gut there versus spending a premium round pick on a tight end that's not Bowers or McBride?
Yeah, it's such an interesting position every year in these, and I have two kinds of teams only. One would be the Bowers or McBride team. I've got a ton of both guys, late first, mid second, here, best ball sites, just that's an investment I'm happy to make. And then Kittle would be third, but I almost never get him because if I end up building a team without Bowers or McBride, it's like the middle for me. It's the Jonnu Ingram range, those guys who go, what is that? The 8th round, 7th, maybe earlier in this, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
the value of tight end's great.
You're looking
I'd rather do that.
7th and 9th round range of those guys you listed. It's anywhere in that range.
And you can draft two of them and even start two of them depending on how the season goes. I wouldn't want to cut them if I'm drafting them that early. But the guys, tight ends 3 through 8, maybe even that many, I never have.
What are your thoughts on that? It's just
same. I've been a weight tight end. I think George Kittle this year is going to be a very good pick. But I also think everybody thinks that. And usually when that happens, there's always a trap there somewhere. Everybody thinks because Ayuk's hurt, Debo's not there anymore, everything's going to funnel through Kittle. I think that could be the case, but where he's getting pushed up to, I can see him getting pushed up even more with the uncertainty at the wide receiver position. So to me, I probably won't take much of Bowers, McBride. I'm a late tight end, especially this year. I just think there's so many guys that just stand out, whether it's, redraft or whether it's best ball. You could fill in a bunch of guys and tell a story that they could be a top 5 to 7 tight end this year. Bowers and McBride are clearly the best, but I just think that this could be the year where you could get some real good fantasy, goodness if you wait on tight end. There's just so many guys in so many great spots that, we could talk about later that just fit the bill that I don't think I could pass some of these receivers that are getting taken. The Browns, the Harrisons, the Terry McLaurins, Rashee Rice, guys like that. I don't think I'm passing on them for George Kittle.
Mike, I got to ask you, understandable maybe, because if it's a different format, in the Never Too Early Best Ball, as Turk can attest, it was Xavier Worthy was going at sometimes well ahead of Rashee Rice by almost a round. That has narrowed, and now, as we're seeing here, Rashee Rice goes at the 311. As I said, over the last week here, I'm looking at the ADP. He's been going at the back end of that third round. His ADP has been rising. As reports trickle out, there may not be a suspension in sight. He's fully healthy and obviously was elite in the PPR format to start the year last year. Are you comfortable taking Rashee Rice in this kind of late third? And at the rate we're going, he's probably going to be an early at that 2-3 turn when it's all said and done, assuming no news breaks. So what are your thoughts on Rashee Rice this year and his ADP?
I'm absolutely comfortable with this 311. You're right. I mean, the news lately has been not only the possibility that he won't be suspended, but also like his injury schedule is on time, if that is to be trusted. So, yeah, I think he's good here. I mean, how much he rises, I don't know how many receivers in this draft that went before him. I'd prefer him to maybe like one. But I think, if you're trying to build a receiver team, you end up starting a different way. I think Rice is right in position here.
I'm curious why, like Rice. So you say like you probably wouldn't take him over Harrison or Brown or JSN or Wilson, guys like that. Is it because of the injury? Is it because of potential suspension? Or is it because you just think Worthy's going to muck it up a little bit and the Chiefs just aren't that high-powered throwing game anymore?
I think
you saw what Rice was doing last year before the injury.
Yeah. No, I think it's a combination of a few things. I mean, I think in Garrett Wilson, JSN, A.J. Brown, Marvin Harrison, I mean, those are, to me, superior talents. I think Kansas City really couldn't throw the ball at all. And Rice being on the field, I mean, that works. I'm definitely not fading him. But maybe not Harrison. Harrison's complicated for me. But everybody else there, I don't think Rice comes in above them. We'll see how high he goes. There would be a cap on how much confidence there is in him off the ACL with Worthy, with Hollywood Brown. Just like they really struggled last year. I mean, they won the AFC again. But, yeah, I think mid-third would be my ceiling on Rice in this.
I agree. I think that by the time Vegas rolls around, he's going to get moved up.
I push back a bit. I would take him over Drake London. I would take him over T. Wow. I would take him over Garrett Wilson. I wouldn't take him over A.J. Brown. Definitely over Marvin. Definitely over Terry.
Okay.
And it's probably a bit, washing. I mean, he essentially, to me, and I can't because I'm not knowledgeable enough to sit here and preach the X's and O's, but I read breakdowns on it, watch people way smarter than me, and also just watching, he essentially became what Kelsey was for so many years. Like, he was just Mahomes' first and last option. It was just, he would attack the soft middle, and he was a PPR monster, and we're just going to have to monitor the suspension. I think the injury was not a consistent trend in his career. It was kind of a fluke because Patrick Mahomes decided to become an airborne missile at his knee. I'm a full believer in his talent, and I think Worthy and Brown will only help him to continue to open up the middle of that field. But Terp, I want to ask you, because people in the chat are talking about it too, as the resident pissing yellow representatives, Team 11. I mean, brilliant start.
Love it. Can't
mean-
say a negative thing about it. I mean, you pretty much don't have to draft a receiver for a really long time. I mean, those 4 guys are all clear cut. You know, in my opinion, number 1 guys. You know, Tyreek Hill falling to the 4th round. People just hate Tyreek Hill this year. And hey, I get it. I know all the red flags are there. You know, is he happy? The wrist. You know, is he getting older? Or is he going to, get a nagging injury? Is his speed going to slow down? I don't care.
4th round.
I'll take my chances on Tyreek Hill in the 4th round 100 times. If he's ever there, he will never be there in any draft I did. I would love to. You have Mojo up.
I do.
When's the latest Tyreek Hill's went? I feel like
4-3. 4-3.
Okay, so that's
But
close.
he's usually going in the mid to early 3rd. So
All 4 of those receivers have a pretty good chance of the closing line value being higher than this. I mean, that's
Every single one of them. I mean, you could paint a path for. I mean, we talk about. I saw in the chat Drake London top 5 potential. You look at like Caleb Williams and Michael Penix, DJ Moore, Adunze, Drake London. All these guys, you could all paint the picture that they could all be up in the top, 5 to 10 receivers by the time the year's over. Those 2 quarterbacks control a lot when it comes to fantasy football this year. So, we look at guys that are getting drafted around Hill, and I love those 4 guys: Moore, Adams, Hill, Evans. I think they're very all similar. And like Mike said, they could all warrant that and then some. All of them could be 2nd round values when we're all said and done.
yeah.
You froze, didn't you? This is going totally off the rails, man. I don't think you realize.
Mike, you got a
that.
question here in the chat about
Okay.
the Hardway draft. They were wondering, were you team 1 in that?
Yes, with Adam Krautwurst. Yes.
Froze
You want to
again.
know how it went?
Go for it. You started Jamar Chase. I remember that.
Yeah, we ended up.
Was there a discussion?
Not really. What we ended up deciding on was, let's find a couple of guys. Maybe they're older. Maybe the market isn't that excited. But in that draft, I watched you guys talk about it. Take your chances, and at the turn, especially. Like you said about Jackson tonight, there's no chance. So we did that twice with Devontae Adams at 3-1. I mean, Mojo comes on your stream. He's like, what am I supposed to do when Schopp takes him at 3-1? And
There's
then,
really nothing you can do.
no, whatever. It's going to look bad on paper in terms of value, but we love Adams. And then
But in that
Kamara,
draft, you don't really have a choice.
no,
You
right.
have
We
to
could
be
have,
creative. Especially your pick. It's not like you have much of a wiggle room. Like if you want guys, you have to take them probably a round or 2 earlier because you're just sitting there. The 1 pick and the 12 pick is tough. In any draft you're in, no matter what, because you're just sitting there and watching guys scarp up value, and you're usually just sitting there going, "Oh wow, I could have had this guy if I was 2-3 picks ahead."
yeah. And I still generally don't like doing that. I'll just pick someone else who's not so much of a quote reach. But Adam got me to just don't worry about it. So Adams was one and Alvin Kamara was the other. I know his friends at Draft Sharks love Kamara this year for the price.
Alvin Kamara is a tricky one. I like him too. Last year I really didn't like him that much, and it was on pace to burn me. But I mean, that team is somebody there is going to, whether it's Olave, whether it's Kamara, whether it's there's just who's going to play quarterback, who's playing tight end. We don't really got to worry about Taysom Hill anymore. Who is going to be the guy? And I don't really see much behind Kamara that really puts any fear into you. Yeah, I know he's getting up there in age, he's slowing down, injuries and all that stuff. But I mean, that's the case with running backs everywhere right now.
Right. And the question on ADP chasing this morning, we talked about their depth chart a little bit. Is it going to be Kendre Miller? Is it Devin Neal? Who is it? Because that's a team where you might think in the best ball tournaments, those playoff weeks, it might be someone younger. It probably should be, unless the Saints are shockingly good and Kamara just stays on the field.
I don't see any path where they're shockingly good. I mean,
almost
I think
none.
that they did Derek Carr retiring is literally a heaven sent for them. They get out of that mess. I mean, he was just very, very, very suspect overall. And, maybe this guy they drafted could turn into a player. He's up there in age, coming off a lot of injuries, but he's probably going to be the guy from day one. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But I agree with the Kamara take. I like Kamara. Where he's getting drafted just makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, you're not spending that much. What also happened in that draft that didn't feel great to me is those guys in Hardway, Dave. They wanted no part of the quarterbacks. Like, it was just sort of wait all night. You had a Beeb. What did he do? Quarterback won in round 16 or something like that.
He drafted a bunch of guys late.
Purdy.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember, but it
was Purdy, Lawrence, and Richardson.
Lawrence, but at the end of the day, like,
why not?
It's fine. Like, if you're building your team a certain way, like he lives in them streets where it's uncomfortable at the quarterback position. But I think, like we talked about with tight ends, I feel like quarterback could be tricky this year because obviously we know the top guys and everybody wants a piece of the Daniels, the Allens, the Jacksons of the world and things like that. But at the end of the day, if you wait, there's plenty of guys there like that make a ton of sense. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix, like guys like that aren't jumping off the page, like Trevor Lawrence. I mean, a guy that's pretty much been an afterthought after, being, steamed up draft boards a couple of years ago. Now adding Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas taking that next step. It makes a new coach that's going to throw the ball. It makes a ton of sense. So, there's plenty of reason that you could stay to wait on quarterback.
Yeah, and almost any time I pick one and feel good about the value, I still end up a little bit regretting it. And that in that Hardway's draft was Mahomes at 8-12, which by Mojo was like a great price.
No, yeah.
We had Kelsey already, but then as the thing went on and I'm watching everybody just pass.
You're like looking at 8-12 and saying, like, what could I have added there? Because I know I'm not getting anybody for 20, more picks.
Right. Right. Exactly. So, but overall,
the Hardway draft is always a tricky one, man. It's always, it's not a league you expect to win, and go anywhere. It's a league for bragging rights and a league with some of the best. I mean, you're looking at the draft and you just pretty much rip it up and throw it away because that's not really going to teach you much. It's going to teach you that, your draft. You hope that when you draft in an FFPC draft, you don't want to be in leagues with those guys because if you're in there with multiple ones, you're probably going to have a lot of pain because I remember sitting here looking at that draft just going like, God, I'm glad I'm not in here because you go in with a plan and that plan gets blown up in 2 seconds.
Yeah, well, the way we looked at it, that's what we were able to avoid is a blow up because we were willing to draft a couple older players and, Mahomes, Kelsey, an older player, ended up happening. And then after that, it's kind of, it's not a free roll, but you're just sort of drafting your running back hopefuls and Chiefs. Because of the start we had, we went to Hollywood Brown, we went to Jalen Royals even toward the end.
But at the end of the day, you can do that because you got to take shots on guys because it's not like it's a best ball league where Jalen Royals could be just a complete wasted pick. I mean, if he doesn't work out, you just cut him.
Right.
I mean, free agency in that league has to be one of the most miserable experiences in fantasy football. Like, it really can't be like,
well,
you almost want to pay somebody to do it just because you're not getting any values, not getting any bargains. You're just hoping and praying that people are sleeping and worried about their other 900 leagues they're in.
I think that's a league where you bump up by a lot your first FAAB bids.
Oh yeah,
because you're going to need to outbid those guys, and that's a league where you want to.
Or you do the opposite, where you're just like, all right, I'm not going to spend any money at the beginning, and hopefully everybody goes bankrupt, and I can withstand with what I drafted, and figure out a way to just make it to where I can bid on everybody at the end. It's usually my mentality when it comes to FAAB. I know I'm a minority when it comes to that. Most people just like blowing it all early, getting the guy that breaks out and then just being fine. I'm the opposite. I feel like if I do that, I usually pick the wrong guy, and then I'm stuck with watching these big time additions to teams get added late, and I'm just sitting there with like $4 left, going like, I got to pick up a defense, I got to pick up a kicker. That's exciting.
What's interesting about that is like in life, how are you taught to be about money? Basically by everyone. Save your money. Yeah. Spending is foolish. Saving is good. So you say your instinct is to save your money, but sometimes it depends on the year.
It depends on the year. It depends on the league. Like you look at some of these now called Big Gorilla leagues, and I was in a bunch of them last year. And they were extremely tricky when it came to, FAAB early on, but later, I mean, when the tourists come, there's guys that didn't pick up a free agent all year. So it's it's a lot more fun to be in those leagues when you can literally bid on whoever you want, and you're probably either going to get them or somebody's going to bid $950 to where it's like, all right, I was going to do that anyway. I'm fine with it.
Mhm.
So it looks like Aiden's trying to get back on here.
There we go.
Back.
Guys, my computer was making noises that it should not have been making.
That's
It was
okay. That's
whirring
okay.
and
We were making
beeping.
noises that we shouldn't be making either. But we're here.
I get
was-
accused of that.
I'm texting Terp. I'm just like, you guys can still see the draft board though, right? And Terp goes, no. I'm like, well, crap.
I was texting a couple of my buddies that are watching. I'm like, can you see it? And then I text Mike. I was like, because he's talking like we were just flowing, like we're staring at the draft board. We were talking about the hard way draft. And then he's like, no. I was like, uh-oh.
No, I got head nothing. But there it is.
We were back. So I got cut off right after Laporta got picked. That's where I got. So we've gone.
You were off before then.
Yeah, we didn't.
You were
even
frozen.
get to
You were literally talking to yourself.
I was talking to myself. And then we hit the classic, like, can you guys hear me? Am I frozen?
The good thing is we didn't miss much. I think we missed like a round and a half, which is not that bad.
We're okay.
So we went Laporta, Junkins, Harvey, Mixon, Travion, DK, James Conner, Caleb Johnson, Travis Hunter, Chuba, Hurts, Kelsey, then Judy, Hawkinson, Sutton, J-Mo, Pickens, Aaron Jones, Jonnu, and Olave. So a little run on the rookies right there in that fifth round. I don't know what were you guys talking about when I hopped in. It's a hard way.
Pretty much the hard way and how tough it was.
Oh, that's a fun league. The me introducing the show as Happy Wednesday was a sign of things to come.
Yeah, the wheels just came off right there.
You were close on my name though.
Yeah.
Show.
There you go. There you go.
I see shop talk, and it's just it does on the.
That was a
show
bad
talk.
decision by me a long time ago. I was thinking it was clever and said it was confusing.
Mike, I'll ask you this as we get back on track. That fifth round between RJ Harvey, whose ADP is just skyrocketing, I think more than any other player. I'm pretty sure Mojo tweeted out. Travion, Caleb Johnson, or Travis Hunter, and Quinshon Junkins there was actually the first off the board. Out of those 5 rookies, which one do you like most for this year?
Hunter, Henderson, Harvey are like 2A, 2B. I'm worried about the other two. Judkins as a first and second round back on a probably really bad team with Dylan Sampson there as well, if not also Jerome Ford. I don't know. In a dynasty, sure, depending on the state of my team. In this, I have problems picking him ahead of any of those guys. I'm excited about Hunter. I think he's going to play wide receiver, and they have every reason to show him off. And if Lawrence is competent, I think that could be really cool. So Hunter and McMillan for me are like 60-40 Hunter, but it's close. And Henderson I like a lot. I think maybe they'll be a little bit good, and he'll probably start for them with Stevenson, if not Gibson, sort of playing roles. So that would be my order. Harvey, I like for the reasons everybody likes, but I don't think there's like a super high ceiling.
Terp, what about you?
Hunter is clearly number one. Like he said, they have all the incentive in the world to show him off. They traded a ton for him. Trevor Lawrence is one of my early flag plants. That's another thing we were talking about when you went dark. I just love that offense. I love the coaching staff. There's not much to show me that the Jags won't take that big step this year fantasy wise after last year being pretty disappointing outside of Brian Thomas. Second on my list would be Henderson. I agree there. He was my favorite running back, not named Ashton Genty, coming out of the draft. I didn't love the spot, but I still think he'll be very good. He's probably going to be a 60-40 guy, with Stevenson, but I could easily see him, coaching staff, new coaching staff. They have no ties to Stevenson. He could easily be the guy day one and pretty much take that job and run with it. The other two, I don't, and I won't have much. RJ Harvey, I don't know. Everybody's on him. It's the same thing with the group think. Like every time somebody really loves a player and they continue to move up draft boards, there's nobody behind him yet. Like you're really going to trust that Sean Payton, who is very, very good with running backs, and we all know that, is going to trust a rookie day one to be the bell cow, do all that, and really warrant a 5th round draft pick? I don't think so. And then Caleb Johnson, good player, but Arthur Smith, we could be running the ball for that team for all we know. Jalen Warren's going to be there, and as long as he stays healthy, I think he's going to be more of a factor than Johnson. So to me, Hunter is clearly number one. You saw the tape that came out, recently that he can't run routes early in camp. Guess what? If you remember correctly, do you remember the last player that like early on they got drafted really, really high that they were having bad reports in practice? Jamar Chase. How'd that work out?
The stripes on the ball.
I'm not saying Travis Hunter is as good as Jamar Chase is right now, but the future is extremely bright in Jacksonville with him. He was the best player, my number one player in that draft. And yeah, they gave up a lot to get him, but I don't care if he plays both ways. He's going to be a very, very, very solid fantasy player this year.
I do like two of the veterans in that
seen
round also. I like Hubbard a lot. I think the rookies are more exciting, but I think that could be a good offense, and he should play all the time and was pretty good last year.
So Rico?
I don't know. Like, I think Hubbard he got paid during the season. I feel like Dowdle is one of these guys that is a respectable second choice, but yeah. I like Hubbard as a potential, I don't know, bell cow, but I feel like for his price, that's pretty good. I even like Mixon too. Because
it's hard not to.
It's hard not to. He's been, labeled like inefficient for 4 years. Yeah. What's changed, right? If he's changed? Old and a little bit less efficient, well, what's really different about that?
They've had a lot of young talent on the outside. Yeah. Christian Kirk, who's going to, be serviceable. It's hard not to think Mixon's going to get the same work he did. Is there a path that he breaks down and everything just goes haywire? Of course, but he's one of the toughest running backs in the league, and that guy's always out there. So, right. To me, where you're getting him, if with Team 4 got him, I'm fine with it. Especially if Team 11, you start off with that start, and you start off with Mixon as your number one running back. That would be awesome. That would be something I'd be signing up for. I'm not saying I don't like what Team 11 did, but Joe Mixon is definitely a guy that if you're going to say Joe Mixon versus RJ Harvey, I'll take Joe Mixon.
Well, Dave, Hurts is a really interesting pick there. I mean, at 5'11".
I agree. It is. I live and die by the stack. I don't care what format it is. That's just how I play. Does it always work out? No, but especially in these gorilla drafts, people could get a little tricky. They don't really worry about stacking as much as you do in say best ball. But I like the pick. I mean, if let's just say the tush push gets burned tomorrow, people are going to say, well, that's bad for Hurts, and yeah, it could be. But it also could open up more in the passing game and more, opportunities to get Goddard, Brown, Smith the ball in the passing game, and he's still going to run the ball. The running is not going to stop. The 1-yard touchdowns, okay, but I don't think it's going to get banned. I think it's just a whole lot of nothing. But he's like to me right around the 5th guy right now, and I love Hurts. Obviously I'm going to have a ton of them. Not overexposed because I like the top 4 guys just a little bit more. But with this team and the structure, I don't mind it. Not taking a running back through 6 is a little tricky, even though I love Hockenson this year.
You like Burrow over Hurts in a vacuum? I could never. You do? Okay.
Yeah, I do.
I like Hurts over Jaden Daniels.
That's just crazy. I'm sorry. That's just crazy. Yeah. In fantasy football, that's crazy. I mean,
Daniels I feel like the post-rookie year with sophomore slumps for quarterbacks are real. I know they improve, though, and that's sometimes – the difference. Obviously, comparatively, Stroud last year was because his O-line got infinitely worse in receiver, but you still see oftentimes these NFLs adjust to rookie quarterbacks. They have a whole offseason to adjust for them, and you usually see a little bit of decline. So
another thing with Hurts that I think is positive this year is that schedule is murderer's row. It's one of the toughest NFL schedule I've seen in a really long time. They're playing a ton of good teams with a ton of good offenses that are going to score. Eagles lost a ton on defense. Yeah, I know that they have a lot of young players that are there and they're going to take the spots. But let's just say a couple of them don't, reach the ceiling that they think they're going to do. And, the guys, Jalen Carter and, Jordan Davis and the guys on the outside like Nolan Smith, let's just say they regress a little bit and they have to score. It's not going to be like last year where the game scripts were all in their favor. Where Barkley, they could just hand the ball to Barkley or hand the ball to Hurts for 1 yard. So if that game script opens, and another thing, Kellen Moore's not there anymore. And we have no clue whatsoever about this offensive coordinator. Do we know for 100% certain they're just going to hand the ball to Saquon Barkley all the time? We don't. So Hurts to me is worth the where he's being drafted, I would never take him over Jaden Daniels, and that's just fantasy football wise. Jaden Daniels just presents so much to me. Jaden Daniels could easily be the number 1 quarterback this year. With the talent, with Aidan Debo, who I'm not the biggest fan, but still a talented ad compared to what they had. Just another year in that offense, another year with Kingsbury, same offensive coordinator. It's just hard not to like Jaden Daniels this year.
Daniels,
Mike, I want to
team, real quick. Sorry, Aidan, but
yeah, no.
This morning on ADP chasing, we were talking about. I'm having a tough time with Daniels in best ball because McLaurin goes before him, and if I don't get to Debo Samuel, then what? Like what? Zach Ertz, and I'm trying to win $2 million at the end of the season. So Daniels
Against
is kind
everybody
of
that has Daniels and Terry McLaurin or Debo.
Yeah, right. That's kind of a tough one for me.
It's
But
tough,
here
it's
in this draft, teammate got there with Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, I wanted to go back in the chat and ask you. There was a question a bit ago when I bounced, but obviously the computer nearly combusted on me, so wasn't able to get to it. But the question was, do you have concerns about Breece Hall with rumors about maybe the Jets? And I mean, you could argue the Jets had it last year, just that running back by committee. And then obviously Justin Fields assumably going to be siphoning touches away from those running backs. What are your thoughts on Breece Hall? He goes in this draft at 304.
I have the sort of the typical concerns. Love the talent though, and if they're like a version of the Browns where they can't win games with a quarterback who can run and steal touchdowns, and they also have a committee because that's what they've talked about, then you're down bad there. So I can definitely see the bear case on Breece Hall, but we did pick him in Hardway at the 2-3 turn because the ceiling is great. Super talented, and if he can have a year, I mean, he's not going to have Barkley's year. That's the absolute extreme, but where he can break off runs, they get offensive line a little bit better, weaker division apart from the Bills, maybe things, different sort of vibe with Aaron Glenn and the Jets, which was down. So the Jets have good players that last year just seemed to amount to nothing.
Not care. Yeah.
Not care. Coaching change and the Rodgers vibes.
Blame him either.
Yeah, so I want to think maybe there's a season here with Hall where he just gets out, and then you're definitely getting paid off in that round where running back is so tricky.
Terp, where do you think the right landing price for you for Breece Hall is? Is it kind of at the start of the third, or would you kind of have to wait until the end at the 3-4 turn? Where are you taking Breece Hall in your drafts?
I texted one of my good friends today that I talk to pretty much daily about fantasy football. And Breece Hall is definitely one name that I'm monitoring a lot more, where he's going in drafts because, like Mike said, his ceiling is immense. There are also a lot of negatives that, you could paint that, the team is bad. Justin Fields could just be very average, and he also could steal touchdowns on the ground. Will there be a committee? Is the offensive line good enough? Do they have enough weapons on the outside to make teams like outside Garrett Wilson to even care about the receivers? So to me, I will have some. I won't be overweight. I don't think I'll ever be at a point where I'm crazy on him. But the new coaching staff, he is the most talented running back they have here. I mean, I know they have, some other guys in there that are okay, that they're serviceable. But if it's a committee like it was in Detroit, that's annoying. Do I think he could play the Jahmyr Gibbs role? Not really. I don't think he's as talented as Jahmyr Gibbs. So to me, I will have some, but I feel like when news starts to come out, it's going to either push him too high or maybe at a point where I might take more. Because right now, the guys he's being drafted around, I don't know. I'm probably out.
It's a tough round.
It's a tough round because it is. I don't know. My eyes just every year you look at drafts early on and I do a bunch of them. So I stare at them and look at them and review them. My eyes are better this year when it comes to I feel like the first couple of rounds, everything seems like it's flowing a little bit different. The guys are real, there's a lot of talented players that are, Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore, Devontae Adams, Xavier Worthy, even Amari and Hampton, Alvin Kamara, Kyron Williams, 4th round Kyron Williams. I hated Kyron Williams last year, but I mean, you can still paint the picture. If Kyron Williams was on a lot of fantasy teams last year that won a lot of money. So where they're being drafted, plus the guys who are getting above them, it's catching my eye that it's really positive when it's going into heavy drafting season, because some of these guys that are getting drafted, they're just in great spots. no matter what the format is, 5th round Travis Hunter, 6th round Jamison Williams, I think he froze again. This kid's just falling apart right now. Show a screenshot. There we go. We're back.
There we go.
Still frozen.
There's Bashal Tootin, Dave. He's a darling.
He's a darling.
I'm
Fumble on his
struggling.
first snap, but you are
Am I still
struggling.
frozen?
No,
Just like Kareem Hunt in his
right
NFL
back.
career, he never fumbled. Kareem
Oh
Hunt.
man, I remember that game like it was yesterday. That first
Scored 40
game
points.
in FFPC, scored 40 points, and people thought after that fumble he was dead, and he literally just set the world on fire. And he's a popular name, and like he's another name that I don't know. Will I have some? Yes, but I think it's a trap. I just don't. I like his profile, but again, it's a muddy situation. Unless one of those guys get dealt in Bigsby and ATN, I don't know.
Both still on the board. You like the offense.
Love the offense. I don't know if I love the player.
It's the new regime's guy.
Yeah.
It's the Bucky Irving comp everybody's making in terms of draft capital and the people in power. I don't know. I like Tootin and I like Jalen Warren right there. I mean, that's easy for me.
I love Jalen Warren. And I love Jaden Blue. He's definitely a guy that he's just moving up draft boards, and it's understandable because, I mean, what do they have there? Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. I mean, anything could happen. Dallas is a team that, in my opinion, is ascending a little bit more. People are, I don't think they're going to be as bad as people first thought they were going to be. But that running back room is wide open, and whoever takes that job is going to be of value, no matter who it is. You could pinpoint one of them, and you have a strong stance. I would take it because if you get the right answer, you could be looking at just a money print because one of those guys are going to be very, 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 very good. The question is who. To me, it's going to be Jaden Blue, but it also, it could not be Jaden Blue until week 8 or 9. It's a tricky situation. And also, the guy might not even be on the team yet because there's a lot of running back. J.K. Dobbins is still out there. Nick Chubb's still out there. And there's plenty of guys who are in situations that might be dealt that might make sense. So it's definitely something to monitor.
It's not a direct comparison, but it kind of feels like trying to figure out the Chargers backfield last year when it was just where we're between Gus, is JK, and that's the staff's guy. It's going to be one of the rookies. Yeah.
And he was the flavor of the week and literally just was so flame.
So who was the right pick? Dobbins was the right pick.
Dobbins was the right pick. But Gus Edwards was ugly
hurt
enough to where he fell in the end zone a couple times.
Yeah.
But
Dobbins, I guess where he was getting drafted though, it was okay because he was your 10th round pick. But
that's the good thing about these situations like Dallas. Like you look at you're not really investing any heavy draft capital. So if you're wrong, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. You could easily recap that if you're taking 9th round Jaden Blue and he just doesn't work out, or the Tyrone Tracy, Cam Scattaboo of the world. You're not really putting yourself in a situation where you're getting hurt. So
I'm drafting Miles Sanders at the end of everything,
which is fair because it's not going to hurt you anything. He's never.
It's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt.
Nobody cares about him.
Nobody in that backfield is better necessarily yet, at least as far as we know. The draft capital on Blue is light, and so if he can pass protect, and they have visions of Dak Prescott staying on the field and Pickens and Lamb kind of hit early. There's your running back one for Dallas.
I don't disagree at all because I could tell you I will not be drafting Javonte Williams. If he burns me, I can live with myself.
Yeah, it's tough for me too.
Question there in the chat for you guys. Mike, we'll start with you and then Terpoilli. Who you guys hire on out of the rookie tight ends, Warren or Loveland?
Loveland pretty much in every format for me. Just better landing spot, better draft capital actually too. Better profile. I'm in a league where we start two tight ends and it's 1.75 points per, and I picked him at the 102 in that thing. I'm drafting a lot of Loveland and very little Warren. Nothing really against Warren. Maybe it's my biases. Before the draft, I had a bet on Loveland to be tight end 1 at 5-1, and that happened. So I feel like I'm already sort of flag planting on him. Maybe not. I'm maybe not the fairest guy to ask.
We're agreeing a lot. I think it's Loveland, and I don't really think it's close. I mean, I've drafted a ton of Loveland so far. He's just a guy, like you said, landing spots perfect. I mean, new coach. We saw what Laporta did. Broke out on the scene. Early on, and Warren, like the player, don't love the spot. Don't love. They've literally had no tight end. Warren is a sniff of fantasy football in a really long time. And I know they drafted him to be that guy, but we don't know anything. If Anthony Richardson's a quarterback, can he get in the ball? Like Daniel Jones, can he get in the ball? Like, is this going to be a Jonathan Taylor just love fest? I don't know. I just don't see a ceiling with Tyler Warren. To me, it's just as close to a fade as I'm going to get early on.
I'll zig while you guys zag. I like Warren. The issues that I have with the Colts offense are entirely valid. And this is the one that it does feel like it could burn me. But, I mean, there's so many mouths to feed in that Bears offense, and I know the comparisons to Laporta. But, like, if we look at last year, the tight end in Ben Johnson's offense, I mean, it wasn't just a Laporta show. I know Laporta got banged up, but they're using multiple tight ends, and Jameson Williams' rise took away from Laporta. So now with Burden, Odunze, Moore, obviously your running backs with Swift there, I just don't know if rookie year Colson Loveland. While I maybe agree, Mike, with you on Loveland's overall ceiling with that landing spot for dynasty purposes, but for this year, I think Warren has the opportunity for more touches, and I think Shane Steichen's going to use him creatively to get him the ball. But I mean, I see both sides, but I like Warren just because of the opportunity. I mean, we've seen rookie tight ends, not saying Tyler Warren by any means is Brock Bowers, but I mean, crappy quarterbacks, and Bowers was just a monster because they're trying to get him the ball. So
You're right. The Bears, there's traffic with the Bears, no doubt about it. The draft capital tells you like there's, intent, and I'm excited about that. I love Burden too. I mean, for the same sort of reasons, like new
that
people.
Slot. He could be very, very good.
Yeah.
Bill Hollywood is asking you guys, specifically you, Terp, can you tell me why Matthew Golden is going so much higher than any other Green Bay wideouts? He got Wicks in the 23rd round last year.
I've been on record. I hate Wicks. I just don't think he's a good NFL wide receiver, whatever I just said. I just don't think he's any good. With that being said, Golden's a shiny new toy. He's a guy with the speed. He's with no real guy there. Christian Watson, my Lord and Savior, being out, for the year. Jaden Reed, he was okay last year, but he's already not. Is he the guy? Like meeting with the coaching staff, like that's never a good thing you want to see. Romeo Dobbs, he could be one hit away from his career ending. So Golden is the shiny new toy. Every year you see these rookies getting steamed up. So to me, it's worth. Jordan Love loves to throw the ball. They're going to throw the ball a ton there. And I think Golden it will pay off, but rookie receivers are they're tough, man. They're tough. It's tough to get a read on these guys, like if they're going to figure it out at the next level. And Golden is in a spot that could be just stealing value where he's getting drafted. But in the 23rd round, though, Bill, Wicks is not a bad pick.
The thing about Green Bay, I would just add, is they have played so slow, and that's a philosophical thing that hasn't failed them. I mean, they have won a lot of games that way. So I kind of think that's maybe the plan again. The guy I like there, I maybe shouldn't mention his name because he hasn't been picked yet, but I feel like the wide receivers are all kind of capped. They've used different guys. We went into last year drafting both of their tight ends. I think they want to win with 60 plays on offense, and maybe they can. They've done it.
Tucker Kraft is definitely one of my highest owned guys so far.
Mike, I gotta
like
ask
that.
you.
Yes.
So
Frozen
you guys
again.
hear me?
Oh, he would.
Yeah, we're back.
This is the way to do it. To start with,
I think you're frozen
you,
because so far we have two teams that drafted two quarterbacks through 10 rounds of this draft. We haven't really ridiculed my pick so far, but
and one has Josh Allen.
If you're taking Josh Allen in the 3rd round, why on earth are you taking Justin Fields? The Bo Nix Drake May thing, I would never do it. I know Mike probably would never do it, but at least I could be like, all right, maybe you draft Josh Allen, you go down with Josh Allen. If he gets hurt or he sucks, guess what? You're never going to put Justin Fields in that line. Tell me a scenario outside of a bye week or an injury where Justin Fields is playing over Josh Allen. You're not. So to me, you're just wasting a pick there where you could take a guy that has more upside, or maybe fill in the room a little bit more, because right now
two receivers.
I have 2 receivers on his team, and one of them could be a 1-year wonder in Jawan Jennings. So I don't know. I don't think that team can survive, with that roster construction the way it is.
Mike, I wanted to ask you before I froze for like the 19th time. There was a comment in the chat, and just the man we need on the show to discuss it is Dalton
Bills?
Kincaid. Yeah, I mean,
See,
second round last year to where we 9th round Dalton Kincaid. Where are we at on the Bills?
Here's the trap. Because listen to Dave's. We're agreeing on everything. I felt like his takes. I flatter myself to say he and I have been simpatico for years. We drafted together in Vegas. We're sort of sniping.
Don't like
each
being in
other.
any rooms with you because we're very similar.
Likewise.
People I just don't like. I don't like ever seeing across the table, and you're one of them.
Right in line. A lot of things. Then we get to the Bills pass catchers and nightmare
That question's
memories
coming.
of,
it's question too. Don't give me no MVS.
It just started. It's Claypool and MVS and KJ Hamler. They're all sort of black clouds floating over my head. And now we're to Kincaid. Here's what I would say about Bills pass catchers 2024. Not feeling good about anybody was right. I mean, Mac Hollins was the leader in touchdown catches for an MVP quarterback with 5 in a year where Lamar Jackson did what he did. I mean, 5. Mac Hollins.
Crazy.
Was he the answer? Shakir gives you the same year every time. That has value. That's good. Coleman didn't work out. Amari Cooper, after the trade, didn't work out. Who's next? Curtis Samuel did not work out.
Nope.
Who was the right answer? Kincaid has not worked out. There's discussion about an injury. The Bills want him to get stronger. I don't think they know what to do with him. That's what scares me about him as an asset. In redraft, the Allen team drafting him, I'm okay with that. He could end up scoring 8 touchdowns or something like that. I don't think Shakir is their slot receiver. Knox is their tight end. They paid him 2 years ago. They can't divest from that. He's the 3rd highest cap hit on the team. And he does nothing but block, really. And so the offensive coordinator that wanted Kincaid is gone. I don't think they know what to do with him. And I don't really know either.
You got the shiny new toys. You got Joshua Palmer. You got Elijah Moore, both who I think could be serviceable. But I just don't know how. In best ball, take your shots. It's not going to really hurt you. And some of these receivers, because they're all being drafted outside Shakir pretty late. But when you actually got to click the button, I don't know where you're ever clicking Joshua Palmer, or you're ever clicking, Elijah Moore or Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid. I don't know. I think it's Josh
Samuel.
Allen,
I think
Cook.
Samuel has money, and he was injured in August last year, and in the playoffs, he did help them. He made a couple of big plays in the playoffs. He's older now. I'm not saying it's safe, but Samuel at least is somebody where you could see it. And I have a tough time seeing it with anybody else. They're so slow, and there's no separation, and they won anyway. So why would they pivot?
I like the Elijah Moore move a little bit. I think he has talent. I'm not sitting here saying I'm going to be overexposed or getting crazy with him or anything like that, but in a room that's extremely muddy, he could show something.
Well, while we're on the Bills, as someone in the chat said, it sounds like James Cook's who you want. If you had a prediction, is James Cook going to be holding out? Is it going to impact his start of the season maybe, or are you hoping he's going to be wheels up?
I doubt it. He's under contract for this year, and the fines are heavy if he doesn't show up. We'll have mandatory minicamp in June. Cook has been pretty public with how much money he wants, and Derrick Henry got extended, and Cook is right there on Twitter with the congrats. He wants your attention, but I don't think he really has any leverage at all. Nobody would trade for him. You'd rather just draft Caleb Johnson than trade for James Cook. We saw that play out.
A free shiny new toy. Nobody wants to pay a running back.
Yeah, no, he's not that good. He's fine. So I feel like he'll be in. I'd be surprised if he isn't, because I don't know what his long game would be.
Hey, Terp,
I
speaking
never
of the Cowboys
pick him.
offense, which
I never pick him.
James Cook.
Yeah.
I don't have it much,
Interesting.
and I don't. But I mean, I feel like you got to get some sort of exposure to him because when you're talking about one of the best offenses in the league, I mean, you gotta fill in the slot somewhere. So I mean, I think Ray Davis is a fun one where he's being drafted as a potential. I feel like he could easily be annoying enough to where, God forbid something happens to Cook, could easily steal that job and take it. But that receiving room and tight end room is just far from me. I don't
You know what though, Dave? Like we talked early on about the veteran running backs, and Cook is younger. 2 years ago, all his numbers were better. Yards per carry, probably everything was better, except he had 2 rushing touchdowns, and last year he had 16. And he's not big. I can't bet on that. It is like 3-4 turn, but I just can't bet on that.
he had the funniest regression to the mean after years of never scoring. And it's like, well, he's probably due to get 8, and then he goes like 16 just out of nowhere.
And I know, and Allen still got his. They rushed for 30 touchdowns.
It's crazy.
It was a joke.
Terp, I wanted to ask you quick, 11th round, you had kind of mentioned the Cowboys offense and people are kind of rising to it. Is Jake Ferguson included? You mentioned Pickens, you mentioned the running back room, you mentioned CD, obviously. Is Jake Ferguson due for a bounce back this year in this offense?
I mean, it's hard not to like the offense overall with Dak, adding Pickens. It's only going to give more room to Ferguson. I mean, he was very, 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 very average last year. So it didn't, anybody that drafted him in that range where he was going never really got there. But like we talked about at the beginning of the show, I just like the way these tight ends are falling, like where these guys are being drafted, like the corpse of Kyle Pitts in the 11th round. Why not? He's not a first-round pick. He's not a second-round pick. He's not a third-round pick. And all the other places he's burned every fantasy owner since he's been drafted. But in the 11th round, Jake Ferguson, Kyle Pitts, Dallas Goedert's not terrible. Freiermuth with no second option right now. If they don't add anybody and Aaron Rodgers does come to town, why not? I mean, and you get to build the team at the beginning a lot, more stacked at the wide receiver, potentially quarterback and running back position. It just makes a ton of sense this year. And maybe it's just, everybody loves Bowers, everybody loves McBride, and I love them too. I'm not in any way saying anything negative about their talent, but I feel like these guys in these 10th, 11th, 12th rounds that are being drafted are solid and could be very, very solid weekly starters.
There's more name value in those later rounds with tight end this year. I think it's just as the rookies come in and are more and more productive, and it pushes down both some of these veterans and post-type sleepers. It feels as though, Mike, I have a proposal for you. Do you want to play wide receiver for Team 7? I mean, Juwan Jennings and who was their other one that they took?
Drake London.
Drake London.
I have good hands. I'm slow.
We see this in drafts all the time. Like I mean, like if this roster can work, if and only if Jennings and London are very, very good. If that happens, this roster could work. Everything could work. Do I think there's any way possible that this roster works? No. Because let's just say the tight end position. I know we wait on tight ends, and we were talking about this a bunch on this show. But if you're going to tell me each week I have to pick between Njoku, Kincaid, and Goddard, that's just Russian roulette, man. That's tough. Like how you can play all the matchups you want, you're probably going to lose every time. If you're gonna do it, I feel like it's a 2 max type of situation. You take a Njoku, you take a Goddard, and you just hope the best. When it comes to the weekly decisions. But taking a third guy is just like, I don't know. It just mucks it up even more when you only have 2 receivers. Taking 2 quarterbacks, it's just a nightmare. It's a nightmare roster construction for me.
If you give the owner the benefit of the doubt, the thinking is all 3 tight ends will flex in every week.
But then you're flexing in. You're who's his first round pick? Jahmyr Gibbs. So he has 4 running backs. So what are you doing with all them? You have 2 slots for. No,
I know.
Connor.
Like you feel like you have insurance in case of injury, but then don't draft them.
Yeah, it's just like you're. There's no profile here that makes it like if you're drafting all those older running backs, not named Gibbs, Kamara, Connor, Jones. Who's the young, like, potential down the road guy that you can just store on your bench?
Right.
It's just
Draft a rookie.
Draft a
instead.
rookie and just, tell him to sit down for a little bit. The Rashard Smith, Jalen Wright, guys like that like really aren't going to hurt your squad early on, but could potentially be league winners at the end. Instead, you draft Tank Bigsby, and I don't know.
I want to ask you guys. We've kind of been looking at them. I don't know if it's just me or maybe we can be in agreement on something this show, but I really like the Chargers offense. Ladd McConkey goes into the second. You see Omarion Hampton, Trey Harris here in the 11th. Are you guys a believer in them to be kind of produce fantasy? I mean, obviously we saw JK last year. So I guess in terms of Hampton and Najee, is Najee going to stick around and going to be a pain, or can Hampton kind of get an iron grip on that job come the end of the season, and then can the passing game increase, or is it just going to be so run heavy between a committee that, maybe it depresses a guy like Trey Harris's value? Basically, I want both of your guys' thoughts on that Chargers offense.
Who first?
Trey Harris is the guy that I like coming out of the draft. Is it going to happen right away? Probably not. Quentin Johnson's going to be annoying. Obviously, it's a Ladd McConkey-led offense overall. But, the same questions we had about Ladd McConkey last year could possibly be the same questions. He's a smaller guy. Injuries were a question. But the talent's there, and we know the ceiling that he has. So I agree. I like the offense. I don't know if I love the offense. Herbert, love the talent, love the arm talent, he's not that in that kind of offense. There's no more Kellen Moore type of situation where he was just launching the ball around the field. It's just not there anymore. And I don't think it's ever going to be there with Jim Harbaugh. So I don't know. Do I like the players? Amari Hampton,
the pieces are in theory. I guess
Najee Harris is going to be annoying early in the season. He's going to be just there. He's a guy that's durable, so he's not going to be a guy that's probably going to go away. I think Hampton's the better bet, to take the job. But even if he takes the job, I don't think it's going to be like a 80-20 type of situation. It's going to be more of like a best case scenario, 65-35, maybe, a little bit higher, but I doubt it. So you put yourself in a situation where you're spending that kind of capital on him, and you're hoping for a Najee Harris injury for him to really hit that ceiling. So do I like the offense? Yeah, I think they have some talent. Trey Harris is the guy that I've added. He's one of my favorite rookie receivers. But it's a little tricky when it comes to like finding somebody that, you really can pin your hat on in a format where you have to start people. Like all these guys are worth shots. Trey Harris, Tyler Conklin, guys like that, maybe down the road that you're not really talking about, but you take a shot and you keep it moving. But it's just tricky because outside of Ladd McConkey, there's a lot of questions in my and more of just like a great offense type of situation.
Mm-hmm. I don't like any of it. I think Herbert is this year's Lawrence. I think Harbaugh and Roman, does Greg Roman as offensive coordinator in the second year ever go that well? Maybe with Baltimore. It did. I hate all of it. I think Najee Harris will matter. McConkey, Dave said, for me, the thing based on his price, like good, but maybe not big enough. Like I'd read AJ Brown went half a round later in this draft.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I just I hate all of it. I just don't want any part. I don't trust the Chargers. I think the Raiders are better. I think Denver is kind of pretty solid. Kansas City's Kansas City. I think it could go very badly for them. That playoff loss, they couldn't block him.
Oh my God.
It was just horrendous. And I don't know, like I'm all the way out. I have some McConkey because, late second, you're building stacks and, okay, they play Dallas in the playoff weeks. You're going to get some of it, but I don't want anybody else.
I feel like the Terp you kind of alluded to it. The dream. Omarion Hampton, I'm sure on some team's board was a top 20 guy. He was that talented coming out of North Carolina. The dream there is that he does get the job and becomes a worker
for the money rounds. You're drafting a guy that high in hopes that
he could be he's a first round pick next year if he hits his best case scenario. Like undoubtedly a first round pick. Like that's the best case scenario for him.
I would say probably, but I wouldn't say that's a definite.
He's more likely.
Best case scenario.
He's more likely. It didn't happen last year because there wasn't anybody.
But why isn't Bucky Irving?
Why
isn't Bucky Irving a first round pick? I think
Bucky Irving is like smaller than you.
He's ahead of him now. I mean, I think the best case scenario for Hampton is what you're saying, like the playoff weeks happens. I mean, the best case scenario is more than that, but
Of course.
I don't know.
Najee Harris is durable. It's not like you're talking about some like scrub.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm in this.
Coaches love him.
It's annoying. It's annoying.
Najee is going to be really
spot.
annoying. He's going to be really annoying because
Jim Harbaugh is going to love those guys.
He's a better version of Gus.
He's a better version. He's a physical back. He's a guy that's not afraid to get hit. Like, you know, Harbaugh just he gets excited over that stuff. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think Hampton's going to be good, but I probably would take other guys over him right now.
Not everybody loved him as the running back too either. You liked Henderson over Hampton.
I like Judkins. I wasn't the biggest Hampton guy coming out.
I guess we're not going to agree then. I'll find something that we can agree on.
It happens.
Who else? It's McConkey. It's Trey Harris, Mike Williams,
Quentin Johnson.
the tight end, Quentin Johnston. I just think this is a team that's made a lot of bad choices and assuming they're going to get away with it because they have Jim Harbaugh.
I think his coaching can get him there. I think that, like you said, I think the Raiders are better. Denver's better. Kansas City's obviously Kansas City. But the question with that division is there going to be a lot of high scoring, like shootout type of situations? A lot of those teams are like, if the Chiefs could go back to where they used to be, but I don't think so. I mean, it could be like a lot of like, you know, ugly 24-17 games, and those games aren't presenting the fantasy greatness that we want.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree. I have some Herbert. Will I have some McConkey? Will I have some Hampton? Will I have some Najee?
I just on the under when it comes
I'll have
to
all
LA.
of them, but not a ton.
Their first 3 games are the Chiefs in Brazil, where the narrative will be about how the Chiefs got blown out in the Super Bowl and they'll be, you know, a pretty good value. Then they'll play Vegas and they'll probably lose because they're the Chargers and everybody will get spooked. Then they play Denver and it's 38-10 and it's like over. That's, you know, I'm painting a very bleak picture.
We're talking. We talk about the Vegas drafts in the FFPC drafts in Vegas, and after these games, we saw last year what the craziness of happened with these games with the Isaiah Likely picks. I mean, all over
Jaden Reed, Saquon,
Jaden Reed, all over that. Two losses there. Obviously, Saquon paid off, but you always see it. And that Brazil game is going to be. We talk about the Eagles Cowboys game, and of course, but if you draft that Saturday, you could be sitting there with like just a wild draft board, man. You could be just looking at absolute craziness because if
Rashard Smith 2 touchdowns and a 31-10 win.
Yeah, if Lab McConkey goes nuts, he could be a top 3 pick. And hey, like look at all of Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy. There's just so many like middle of the, and you always want those games to be middle of the road guys. Like we don't want to see like. If Saquon Barkley doesn't get it done in week 1, he's not going to fall that much to where it's going to matter. I mean, he's going to fall to the end of the first round, but it's not going to be crazy. But like if a guy like Xavier Worthy puts up the Super Bowl numbers, he's a top 8 pick. And warranted or not, it's going to happen. It happens every single year. So
yeah, up until last year, I hadn't really seen that truly explosive ADP riser because the games I got, you know, Lions, Chiefs, Rams, Bills. There was, and then last year, I mean. Isaiah Likely might. It's going to be a while before Isaiah Likely in the second round is top for me. That was just absurd.
Well, this year it's Dallas.
Yeah,
Dallas, Philly, and then you got the Chargers, Chiefs right after on Friday. Which that Friday game was Barkley, like you said, Jaden Reed. You know, Jordan Love getting hurt, plummeting. You know, I mean, it didn't cost him a lot, but still.
That game was just great for fantasy. Just electric.
It was. AJ Brown had a big game. Devonta Smith was quiet and he fell down draft boards. You know, it's a different dynamic.
Was that the game where Josh Jacobs started slow and then he exploded in the fourth quarter?
He came on. Yeah,
right.
He looked terrible early.
Awful. There was a question in the chat for you guys. Is an interesting one from Sean. Is who do you guys like most from last year's draft class out of Trey Benson, Marshawn Lloyd, or Blake Corum? Mike, I'll go to you first.
I think Lloyd is the most interesting right now. Reports on him in the spring are good. There's nobody in his way. I think Benson could be that player. Connor versus Jacobs, you never know. Both can be workhorses. And I think Corum is third because of Jarquez Hunter. I just would put him third there because I think the other two have easier paths to being relevant. So Lloyd is an interesting pick for me right now. Liked him last year, but just got off wrong, got hurt right away, and that can be a lost season. But so far, the buzz is pretty good.
Terp, what about you?
I'm trying not to agree with you again, but the answer is Marshawn Lloyd. Blake Corum was a guy that I fell into the trap last year. I was not a Kyron Williams guy. I had a ton of Blake Corum. It was a massive L for me. The thing about Blake Corum that I don't like is, like you said, they drafted Hunter. If they really believed in him, he would have played last year. Didn't play at all. It sometimes wasn't even the backup. And they drafted a young kid to potentially take his job. And if something happens to Kyron Williams, just take the job completely. And that's the red flag to me. I mean, will I have a little bit of quorum just because I still like the player? Yes. But to me, the answer is Marshawn Lloyd. Last year was just like another trap that I fell into. Love the player. Was one of my favorite running backs coming out of that class. Just ran to the rookie wall. Injuries, just couldn't figure it out. And Josh Jacobs took that job, and once he was hurt, he just never really materialized into anything. So I like Trey Benson though too. He's a guy that I've been adding a lot.
I mean, especially with picture of health, James Conner ahead of him. I mean, that's
with
a guy.
Conner being a total unknown. I mean, obviously he's still a great player, just a great overall, athlete, and is out there. But I can see Benson getting worked in more. So there are two guys that I'll be adding almost anytime I can in these drafts, just because. Again, you can cut them off. It doesn't work out. If they have, Marshawn Lloyd gets banged up again, you just hit the cut button, move on. It's a little bit more of a tricky situation if you're doing best ball, but I still like Lloyd as the profile better than anybody by a good margin too.
Tough scene for Michigan man Sean Green asking that and us basically telling him that probably one of his favorite Michigan running backs of all time is just bad at football now. So
can I ask a question?
Please.
I mean, I still like Blake Corum, but I mean, the red flags are just there. It's just I don't.
Yeah,
I wonder, how do you think Team 8 came through? So they started pretty running back heavy, right? I can't see the first 5 rounds.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Team 8 started McCaffrey, Henry, Daniels,
sure running back heavy,
Kyron, Caleb. I think you guys can see it.
And then Dunn.
Yeah. And then Pickens, Debo, Warren, Golden.
I mean, I don't think it's that bad. I mean, all things considered, starting 4 running backs and a quarterback your first 5 picks, I don't think it's terrible. I mean, do I love the players personally? No. Wouldn't have drafted Henry. Wouldn't have drafted Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams is fine. Definitely would not have drafted Caleb Johnson. But Pickens, you could paint a path. Debo, you could paint a path. Matthew Golden, you could paint a path. If you're Tyler Warren, maybe a Mecca, who's one of my favorite receivers coming out, something happens to one of those guys up top, one of the best offenses in football. But, I mean, young receivers, I wouldn't do it, but I don't think it's terrible, no.
I feel like at the end of the 5th round, it's a question of, can they get away with this? And they may have. Yeah. Batch late, Hollywood Brown, maybe. It's possible. We're in the kickers now.
Jack Beckett is in my opinion, a talented rookie in a good spot that could easily be the wide receiver 1 on that team. I know Jacoby Myers is a very good NFL player, but Geno Smith gets a little rapport with the young kid. Good story behind him.
Yeah,
I'm with it. I'm with it. Taking the shots that he did at the position and just hoping that Debo and Pickens get him there until one of those or 2 of those guys emerge. And if those running backs pan out, you could definitely do it. It's not something I would do personally, but if you're in these, you're going to build structures a different way. So none of them are crazy, except taking Justin Fields when you take Josh Allen. That's crazy.
Yeah, if it's as simple as I said, it could have been. The build could have been a lot worse. I think
it could have been way worse. Yeah.
If I was them, I wouldn't have. Hindsight, I wouldn't have taken Kyron. I would have taken a receiver and then grabbed Caleb Johnson.
I wouldn't have taken. I've been fine with Kyron. I would have not have taken Caleb Johnson.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Team 11 is the inverse with the 4 receivers up top and then pound running backs. They totally did that. Hurts naked.
Man, I just don't like the running backs. I don't like Pacheco. I don't like Brian Robinson.
But there's so many down here.
There's so many, and if you could survive the first couple of weeks, get some W's and have the receivers carry you and Hawkinson and Hurts, and one of those running backs be serviceable in the Pacheco Robinson, yeah, you could paint a picture. It's just those running backs just don't catch my eye.
But usually, historically, running backs are usually the easiest to stream through FAAB.
Oh yeah,
So,
if you're going to FAAB it, it's definitely going to be the running back position because receivers are just people are just going to they're the positions people are going to take shots. But like, I don't know if this guy's been drafted yet, but like you said, Miles Sanders would be a great add to a team like that. Take some shots. Will Shipley, guys like that.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing it right. I think
J.K. Dobbins would be another one that would just make a ton of sense. Oh, he got drafted. Never mind.
Right. 3 tight ends is a little weird, but thanks for the compliment, by the way, in the chat. Zeus, way to go. Thanks for watching.
I will say, if the 3 tight end build, I just wanted to shout, just of team 3 went Bowers in the 1st, then they went Loveland in the 8th, and then Terrence Ferguson in the 15th. That's a 3 tight end build with a ton of upside that I love. Obviously, we praise Loveland, but I mean, anytime the Rams.
Terrence Ferguson's a trap this year. He's getting drafted in the 15th round. I think he's a trap. I think Tyler Higbee's. I talked about him on the first show, and I'm talking about him on this one. And I'm not no Tyler Higbee stan, but when he plays, he's serviceable. So if he's healthy, which is a big if, Matthew Stafford likes throwing him the ball. If Matthew Stafford didn't get sacked by Jalen Carter, the Eagles might not have won the Super Bowl because Tyler Higbee broke the ankle of the linebacker. Forget who it was. I think it was Orion Burks in the middle of the field. So I don't know. Terrence Ferguson to me is like that Ben Sonata this year. He's going to keep getting. You're going to see a lot of training camp buzz and all that stuff, and it's just going to be the veteran. Hey, the Rams, they're in a Super Bowl win now mode. Stafford, Devontae Adams. If Tyler Higbee's healthy, he's going to be on that field. I don't think that Sean McVay's an arrogant guy, but I don't think he's going to throw a rookie out there if he's not 100% certain on him. They want to win now. They're not.
So we'll say this, Terp, if you're against Ferguson, that, as you said, that price, this is probably the lowest, one of the lowest we'll see him. Assumably, he's going to be just kind of rising, come August. This might be a 10th, 11th round pick with some training camp buzz and some preseason highlights.
I agree.
Sonat. You never want to be this year's Ben Sonat. Although, by the way, is he valueless? Ertz is old, and is he completely?
I think Ben Sonat is a guy that we're taking shots on tight end position. Why
absolutely not? Has a ton of value this late.
What's different than that Ben offense? And Chigakonkwo?
How many guys outrank Sonat in Washington? 3 at the most. Pass catchers, 3 at the most.
At the very most, yeah. I don't even know who the wide receiver 3 is on the team right now. I think it matters.
Noah Brown.
Yeah, but it's Noah Brown.
It's, I guess, but
no,
not for me. So it's, if you
slow tight end,
paint the picture and Debo with his injury,
technically Eckler is their third receiving.
It's another guy that's one hit away that could be career-ending after that.
It's the Trey McBride path, and it's the same guy in his way. Zach Ertz. Just saying,
I agree.
He's a good player.
1000%. You could paint the picture that he could be the second receiving option on that team.
Some are saying this stream is an elaborate scheme to get people off Ben Sonat in the last round of every draft. Some are saying that.
I mean, me and Turk talk about it every year. I'm sure probably most pods and shows do, but there's always the tight end drafted outside the top 18 tight ends who finishes top 5.
Mike Gesicki's a name that I just will click every time in the spot.
That's this spot. He's not going to be. He's not going to be top 5 though. I thought you were answering a guy outside the top.
No. He's just like, we're looking at tight ends here that you just click the spot. It's like a backup, a guy that could be serviceable if something happens to your tight end. You're talking about the best, if not one of the best offenses in football. So it's tricky.
The radar.
Yeah, I do like the Ben Sonat call out. Terp, I think I might be wrong, although we did a best ball, so it might be different. But Trevor Lawrence in the 16th, 17th, essentially, you got to be all over that, especially for what you predict the offense to be.
Trevor Lawrence, I would start him over Kyler Murray.
JJ McCarthy over him is kind of crazy.
It's the hype. I like JJ McCarthy. I think JJ McCarthy. There's not many better situations in football than what JJ McCarthy's walking into. Great coaching staff, great receivers, a really good tight end, serviceable and above average running backs with Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. If JJ McCarthy could be the steal in fantasy football this year, all things considered, if you are a believer. And it's a tough picture to paint in some people's eyes because he never had to be that guy in Michigan. Never. He was always just like a game manager. But if he opens it up and he actually is a good quarterback, oh man, he controls so many fantasy guys. There's not many spots that are more important than JJ McCarthy this year because you're talking about a top 3 to 5 pick. You're talking about, a tight end who's being drafted in the top 6, 7 rounds. You're talking about Jordan Addison who's going extremely high, Aaron Jones who's going high, Jordan Mate. There's just so many things that he controls, and if he pans out, man, these guys are all going to be valued.
Sean Green in the chat, and correct me if I'm wrong, he has sneaky rushing upside, I'm pretty sure. Like, at
Also,
Michigan, he was athletic as hell.
Yeah, you just got to see, like, is he going to come back from the injury? Like, what's the injury? Is it going to hamper him? Like, they could have added Aaron Rodgers, could have brought in Daniel Jones just to be annoying. They brought nobody in. So they believe in him. And there's not many better offensive systems that I would want to be a part of in Minnesota with the coaching staff. So I'm a big JJM guy this year.
Micah, it sounds like you might be a big JJM guy as well.
I'm okay. I think all those points are correct. We'll see what it is. On this Team 10, you don't need them. So you can Dynasty, fine.
Perfectly okay.
Perfectly okay. I'm just
JJ
saying.
McCarthy's a great best ball pick.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, if we're in redraft season, as we clearly are, that means we're in lineup season. So, to Terp's point, Kyler Murray at New Orleans or Trevor Lawrence versus Carolina in week 1. The schedule's out. We got to know these things.
It's tricky. Yeah, you got to start looking at the schedule. Like the week 17 bros are all out. Like looking at the correlation for the end of the season, all these best ball tournaments, and it's definitely something you got to pay attention to the schedule. I'm one of them too. I'm one of the bros.
Murray and Lawrence same bye week.
Yeah,
Some are concerned.
Yeah, I mean it's people don't look at that as much early as they do later, especially in redraft. They don't really care because they could figure it out later in the season. You're not going to see that much because people are, I would say, a little bit sharper and a lot more like tuned in, especially the tourist drafters, like we call them. They would never draft 2 guys in the same bye week. So it's a different strategy. I don't hate it, but I wouldn't do it.
Obviously, Terp, I think you had said, like, who knows if the Chiefs offense will ever be back to the high-flying heights that it once was. But we've kind of talked in, I believe, our Rashi discussion early on, how Hollywood Brown is airworthy. Does Jalen Royals get any of your guys' love, especially as a lottery ticket late? None? No. Why not?
What's the path? Where's the path for him to play? I mean, tell a story that Jalen Royals can. I mean, everybody can tell a story that if 2 guys get hurt, but tell me a story where he's going to be. I mean, what's best case scenario that he's maybe the MVS in Kansas City? Maybe.
Juju is still there.
Justin Watson.
Watson is in Houston. Juju is still there. I think that's the right point. The path is the right point. I like the prospect a lot, Aidan. Like Royals for me was a fun Bills idea, but they would never, right? They would never draft him.
No. Why would they do that?
Why would they do that? Works the way they do it.
I'm not on or against Royals. I just, you see the buzz anytime a speedy receiver goes to Kansas City to pair a read, and fantasy Twitter gets, all excited and in a tizzy. And I think as you guys
have those. They have Xavier Worthy. They have Hollywood Brown. They don't need any more speedy receivers. Give me all the running back lottery tickets I can get this week.
I do like Brashard Smith there. I feel like that's a bet worth making.
I also agree.
Late in these 7th round running back, but Pacheco was that. Hunt is old, and Elijah Mitchell. There's someone else. I feel like Smith could. The Chiefs are good at showcasing their rookies on social media when training camp starts, and everybody gets super excited. And they haven't been really that wrong yet. Like it's sort of been right to buy into Rice and buy into
Steele.
Carson. Well, that wasn't
the Carson Steele fan. I was trying to think of that name, and it just popped in my brain. I was literally trying to think about this all day, and I don't know why it just popped in my brain there. But every year it's a trap. Who was the other running back that was real? I don't think he was a rookie, but oh my god, it's going to drive me nuts.
Last year,
he got cut last year. The last 2 years, he was going to be like, oh, he's going to be one of the guys, and he just, what the heck was his name?
I don't know. I need Davis
on the Chiefs.
He's our Chiefs guy.
Yeah, it was the Chiefs.
Are you talking about Justin Ross?
No, he's a receiver. I'm not that dumb.
I didn't know. I mean, Justin Ross qualifies based on the criteria you laid out for me.
I'm going to figure this out before the show's over. Hold on, what the heck's his name?
I promise not to look.
All right.
I'm looking because that's going to drive me nuts.
Louis Reese-Zammit last year, they had him, the rugby player. That was a thing last year. That's not the guy you want, but he was in the conversation for a minute.
Let's see if it's shown.
Here it is. Deneric Prince.
Okay.
Deneric Prince.
He was a preseason hype guy, got drafted in a bunch of drafts, and then just
good night, sweet Prince.
Yeah. What do you guys make of Pacheco this year?
I'm out.
With he just is he kind of going to just settle into that? He was kind of a couple year wonder, and then has just kind of fallen off. I mean, he looked bad last year, but obviously coming off an injury. So
I think he was good, but the injury was really rough, and then they kind of maybe rushed him a little bit back. You're trying to win.
Absolutely rushed him back.
Didn't look good at all. I could see there maybe being a Tony Pollard narrative with him because I think he was a fine player before, but is that what if Smith is everything they want pretty early? That's a big if, but I'm kind of thinking that maybe that can open up for him. It's a lot to it's a last round pick. That's all.
Yeah,
for sure. I'm not drafting Pacheco.
I do think. I mean, yeah. If Rashard Smith goes at the 12:01, I think Pacheco went at the 7.
Oh yeah, wow.
This is a terrible take, but I'll make it anyway. I would rather draft Kareem Hunt over Isaac Pacheco. All things considered, and I won't draft Kareem Hunt probably ever. But where he's like, you tell me I can have 20th round Kareem Hunt over 7th round Isaac Pacheco, I'll take that chances. Kareem Hunt wasn't terrible last year. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying he was great, but he did enough to where you were putting him in your lineup sometimes. I'm not saying he was a superstar or anything like that, but I just don't see. He said the injury Pacheco. He's had, it has me worried. They rushed him back. They have a lot of guys
narrative there. It's like it's not even the Pollard narrative. It's always the coming back from a high ankle, especially over a short time, and they don't really get up to speed until almost well over like a year later. So Pacheco would be hitting that. Kind of early on in this season, he'd hit the year mark. Like I remember vividly with Pollard. Pollard said he wasn't right his last year in Dallas until after the bye week, week 12, is when he finally forgot. Which coincidentally, those final like 5 or 6 weeks of the season were by far
all Pollard owners like myself were all dead by then. Didn't matter.
Dynasty me is loving Team 2's running backs in the last half, including Rashard Smith. I mean, yes, 12-11. DJ Giddens, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Phil Maffa, Dallas as running back 78. This is fun. Like this is sort of a
lottery tickets.
Sort of like the traditional late round running back thing that a couple other teams were doing. Here's Team 2 going like, all right, well, I'll raise you with Krosky-Merritt and Phil Maffa.
I also think with Team 2, the Keenan Allen pick isn't terrible. You could paint a picture.
I agree.
Keenan Allen wasn't bad last year. He had a lot of games that were very, very good. Yeah, I know he's getting up there in age, but he's still one of the best route runners in football. So
look at my Hardway team, 16-12. So this guy got good value, Dave, 17-2.
You know where would be a good spot for Keenan Allen? The Buffalo Bills.
Oh, they've got
isn't Shakir?
They have 100 guys, already. So they probably aren't even going to think about it. But you could paint a. There's a lot of places that
do the Bills sign an old veteran receiver, or
no.
Bean was on the radio freaking out at you. Buffalo.
They have more. They have
radio,
right? All the guys they had.
I worked there.
Yeah,
it was us.
It was you. It was you guys. Okay,
it was. Yeah, we got a week mileage out of it. Keenan Allen, I think I sort of like for Atlanta.
It's a good spot.
He'll land somewhere, like you said.
He will, and
he's going to go to camp.
He's not going to go somewhere just to play. He's going to go somewhere that he thinks could be a place where he could, make an impact, and obviously a team that could possibly win. Arizona is a spot that people keep talking about as a popular one. There's a couple other ones that are a little off the radar that I like a little bit more, but like you said, I think Buffalo's the best. It's not going to happen, but everybody wants to see somebody go to Buffalo, and just it's not going to fit.
I will say of all the aging receivers, Keenan Allen, despite showing his mileage at times, had like the best moments last year. I mean, he had some big games in a pretty horrendous offense. So you'd like to think there's still tread on the tires and that Keenan Allen can still be fantasy relevant. But
KT in the chat has made 2 good points in my opinion. One of the spots that I like for him is the Commanders. I don't think it's a bad spot. We just talked about the wide receiver 3 who really don't have. Debo, it's question marks when it comes to injuries, and Terry McLaurin is obviously the one and clear-cut number 1 option, but it makes sense for a team that is trying to win now, who didn't really add much in the draft because they didn't have any draft picks. And second thing was, does DeAndre Hopkins get undrafted? I don't see there being any world where I draft DeAndre Hopkins. I know Lamar Jackson's tied to him, and I get it, but
I could see some 6 for 39 and 0 weeks early in the season. Then I don't know after that.
He looked atrocious last year. Like, he looked so bad, to where.
Like, let's be real. The moment that the Chiefs officially lost the Super Bowl is when he just dropped wide open.
Oh my God!
Do you remember that pass? That's DeAndre Hopkins, some of the best hands of the past decade.
You look at last year, the 2 spots and 2 guys who have not been drafted yet: DeAndre Hopkins and Amari Cooper. Both landed in what most people thought were the nut spots.
Oh yeah,
like Amari Cooper with Josh Allen made so much sense, and literally at points you forgot he was on the field.
They both had great starts too. His second week in Kansas City, D-Hop had 2 touchdowns on Monday Night Football, and Amari Cooper playing 30% of the snaps had I think it was against Dolphins, Mike. He had a good start. He had 5 for something and a touchdown. Barely knowing the playbook, and then did nothing the rest of the season.
He hurt his wrist in Seattle, or was that where Coleman got hurt? He hurt his wrist, and they just never. If you think about the AFC Championship game, here was a spot where Cooper could have made a difference down the field, and they wouldn't throw the ball literally past the line of scrimmage in the second half of that game
at all.
Good luck this year,
Mike. Someone in the chat's asking you, have you ever been told that you sound like Keith Olbermann?
No, but that's a great compliment. I don't think I have. I don't think I have. Like everyone else, I hate the sound of my voice.
No, well, you do. I can see it. It is a compliment.
Same as
say what you want about Keith Olbermann. He does have a.
He sounds good.
He's a wild card, but he does sound good.
Smart guy.
He actually says.
Deontay Johnson getting drafted in the year 2025. Why?
2 defenses there. All right, lineup time. Teams. Sorry, this is your show. Team 6, week 1, Pittsburgh at the Jets, or Buffalo Sunday Night Football versus Baltimore. Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Good thing he's got that Bills defense in the pocket.
Yeah.
I just don't. Teams that drafted 2 defense, if you want to keep 2 defenses on your roster during the season, that's different. Why are you drafting 2 defenses? You could take lottery tickets. Any of these guys, you might love them, you might hate them. Damian Martinez, Sean Tucker, Isaiah Davis, Justice Hill, Phil Moffitt, Trevor Etienne. Any of these guys, you could all paint a picture. What the hell are you drafting 2 defenses for?
There we go. This will not be a defense. Last pick of the draft will not be a defense.
Are you
sure? They have 2.
Are you sure?
We've seen 3 defenses.
Maybe a backup kicker. Maybe they just do it to troll.
Maybe
it's gonna be like Wan'Dale Robinson.
That's Lamar, right? In 3rd round, and then Jordan Love.
Yeah. I'll say this is also around Team 7, who was kind of XL, the butt of our kind of jokes on this show. Not by any means condoning it, but I do like Calvin Austin in the 18th round there, because someone's going to have to catch the ball in Pittsburgh. So
I like
Roman Wilson a little bit more.
Roman Wilson, yeah. Where is Roman Wilson going to these things? Not at all.
I don't see him being drafted. But
nice prospect, hurt all year, right, Dave?
Yeah.
He's more alive.
I would open Mojo to check, but I feel like
he's the Marshawn Lloyd of the receiving room.
Receiver, yes, he is.
Yeah.
Literally, guy that was real popular coming out last year.
What was it? 3rd round capital? Yeah, I think it was 3rd round. They took
landed in a great spot. Whether you like the Steelers' offense or not, it's still a great spot. Trade George Pickens. He's definitely a guy you should be taking shots on, especially early, because at the end of the day, it can only happen where he's going to go up. He's never. If he goes down, oh well. But
or we could just be looking back on it, and that 2023 Michigan team is just one of the worst offensive national champions.
You're going to see a lot. You're going to see a lot this year when it comes to that team, whether it's Corum, whether it's McCarthy, whether it's
Yeah,
Loveland,
Wilson,
whether it's
Wilson,
all those guys who are big parts of that team, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Theo Johnson, I also like that pick in the 19th round.
There's definitely, I think we kind of alluded to it. There's definitely some more names than compared to past years in these like bottom 5 rounds, where I feel like you can. I mean, every year you're going to get legitimate guys out of those 5 rounds who can win you leagues, but this year it feels like it's. Terp, as you said, you can see it a little more clearly. Some of these guys, the pathways to
Will Shipley, Miles Sanders, Aldrich Estime,
Love it.
Justice Hill,
Love it.
Yeah,
why not?
Tucker, why not? Like you're saying, like all these guys you could all AJ Dillon. No, I'm not there. Don't.
Eagles.
This sounds nuts.
I know where he's at. No.
Again, 18th round. I mean, Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, exactly.
Anthony Richardson.
This early in the draft, like fine, okay, whatever. Hopefully, I never have to
something.
see him because I don't think he's very good. But
Team 5, 4 tight ends in the last 8 picks.
Fine. Like I actually like the tight end room. I'm not sitting here saying I'll be excited about clicking the button every week, but Strange is a guy
Here we
that
go.
I'm adding a ton. Love him. Jawan Johnson's another name I like a lot this year. I mean, unknown. The Saints are one of the biggest unknowns this year when it comes to. We talk about it before when you were off with Kamara, Olave, kind of not talked about. Rashid Shaheed is another name, and then Jawan Johnson. They brought him back. Taysom Hill. Hopefully, we never have to hear the name again. Dalton Schultz is not a terrible pick there either.
Strange versus
Schultz.
Carolina, Okonkwo versus Denver, Johnson versus Arizona, Schultz versus Rams. Week 1.
Johnson.
Let's go. When I get done with these, the first thing I do is put the lineup in. I love
As is rite of passage. As is rite of passage.
I do the same thing, and then you can't second guess it. Just put it in, keep it moving.
Just leave it and close your eyes for
now,
4
if you're
months.
doing one team, hey, second guess yourself 24/7 because that's just what it is. But if you're doing a bunch, you got to mix it up just a little bit.
I am now hungry to do one more of these, and it
There we
won't be
go.
the last one, but
This is definitely
you
a
guys got
softer
me in
room
the-
than we saw in the first one.
the hard way or last week.
No, not the hard way. Different one we did. Definitely a softer room. AJ Brown, the 3rd round is
Pretty
yeah,
good.
you can say whatever you want about that offense. That's insane.
And I'll put in my pitch. You go draft now. There's like just over 100 early Rampage leagues left. So you draft now, you're getting an extra $25,000 prize pool up for grabs just between you.
Memorial Day weekend has always been my tradition to start this tournament. It started earlier this year, way earlier.
Way earlier. Yep.
But that's when Adam and I usually start. Our first one is this weekend coming up.
Hell yeah.
I like it.
Top holiday.
Well, there we go. Mike, want to thank you so much for joining us. My technical difficulties and last name and date faux pas and all. So we appreciate you. Please, before you go, please let us know where we can find all of your work, where our listeners can listen to you and all your fantasy advice. Please give them that information.
Thank you. I do Buffalo Sports Radio afternoons, 3 to 7 at WGR on the Odyssey app. This is my 24th year there. And I guess I put in as much fantasy as I can get away with. A lot of the guys you know of and have had on have been guests of mine, and that's something I've really enjoyed. I'm now hosting ADP Chasing Tuesday mornings on the Ship Chasing team with Pat Corain, Davis Maddock, Jacob Sanderson. You can find today's stream from this morning on YouTube, of course. And you guys and the deep end with Adam, we'll get that back rolling in the summer. And I think that's it. I mean, you can come over, just knock on the door. Maybe I'll answer.
You always do.
Mike, 24 years on the radio. That's essentially my whole life.
Only at the one station. I mean, I go back.
That's amazing.
Before that, I was broadcasting.
I can only imagine the callers you get on.
Man.
I mean, I hear the callers and get on Philly sports radio, but
Yeah.
with the
there's one WIP, and that's it's a much bigger market, and that's way more caller intensive than we are. We just sort of, my partner Bulldog and I have very easy conversation every day. Many days we don't even get calls, or just it doesn't really come
amazing.
up. Today I talked to Warren Sharp for 25 minutes. That was great. Tomorrow we have a Falcons guy. Every day, Friday is usually fantasy, but it's been a good run.
Awesome.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, find Mike, Ship Chasing, Deep End, coming back in the summer. Terp, you and I will be back on June 4th. We're starting our weekly live draft coverage every Wednesday. Andrew Cooper from Fantasy Alarm will be joining us to cover another Big Gorilla. So we will see you guys then. Thank you for watching, as always, liking, subscribing, and as I said, sticking through us with my computer just absolutely imploding. So we'll see you guys on Wednesday, June 4th for another Big Gorilla draft coverage. Happy drafting, guys.
See you guys.